young one.
Dan Levely Show. Turn it up, let's go. Lights on, cameras rolling, we ain't never slowing. Dan Levely in the building, everybody know him. Mic check, 1, 2, got the city in a trance. Every guest on the couch, got a story, got a chance. Talk beats, we talk dreams, we talk late nights. Culture in the mix, keep it real, keep it tight. From the underground up to the main stage. Every episode, another chapter, another page. Trap house beat, keep it up tempo. We vibe in love on the Dan Levely Show. Music, stories, culture, let it flow. Turn the speakers up, let the whole world know. Yeah, trap house beat, keep it up tempo. We vibe in love on the Dan Levely Show. Music, stories, culture, let it flow. Turn the speakers up, let the whole world know. Yeah, spotlights flashing, the crowd's reaction. Energy electric, every word's a caption. Artists spilling secrets, legends in the chat. Laughs and confessions, real talk in the air. We breaking boundaries, never playing it safe. From the heart of the city to the digital wave. Every sound, every voice, every beat we play. It's a movement, a moment, every single day, yeah. Trap house beat, keep it up tempo. We vibe in love on the Dan Levely Show. Music, stories, culture, let it flow. Turn the speakers up, let the whole world know. Girl, the honor to God, had us fall. Take it long, keep it love, the Dan Levely Show. Trap house plays, rubber in, we don't go see much time. Keep biting on fall.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to Dan Levely Show. Happy Saturday. The weekend is finally here. Work week is over. Very special guest today. We have comedian Dustin Cole coming on. He's got his new tour coming up with Tom Arnold, my crazy ex-wife's tour. And we're gonna get him on the screen right now. Actually, we're gonna get the overlay off. I keep clicking the wrong button. What the fuck's going on? Ladies and gentlemen, Dustin Cole.
Good to be back, man. It's good to be back. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, you were on about a year ago. I've had you on. Yeah.
I don't know why I remember this, but it was the day the Lions lost to the Redskins.
Yes.
A couple playoffs ago. We were talking about it on the podcast, and then just later that night. I don't know if something bad in Detroit sports happens after this. We probably shouldn't ever do this again.
Right. I think the Tigers maybe, but I don't know. They're not that great to begin with.
Yeah, that's
I really can't blame that on us.
That's a wash this year, unfortunately. I think anyway.
Well, yeah, I heard they're second in their division, but I don't know. I don't think that's correct. I could be wrong, but if they are, our divisions, there's a big gap.
They've gotten a little hot recently. Yeah, like the last 8 or 10 games, they've gotten pretty hot. But I don't know if it's like one of those too little, too late things either, though. So we'll see.
Right. Yeah, before we get started, though, take a few seconds to introduce yourself to the people who don't know you out there.
Dustin Cole, stand-up comedian. I've been 20 years in the game. Been at it for a couple decades now. Nationally touring comedian, hit stages all across the country. I'm based out of Flint, Michigan, though, so pretty local to in the grand scheme of things, as far as like how far I am away from you. Because I think you're up a little more north from the thumb. Right?
Yeah,
like you're up in the Midland area. Yeah. Yes, you're not that far away. Yeah. Nope. So I'm kind of local to you as far as the big picture is, anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Lapeer area, right?
Yep. I live in Lapeer. I consider myself a Flint-based comic because nobody knows where the hell Lapeer is.
Right.
So like if I'm in Ohio and after a show, people are like, "Where are you from?" If I'm to say Lapeer, then it's a big conversation. So I'm just Flint. I'm from Flint.
Right. Same.
And then
same,
if that's too confusing, it's Detroit. I'm from Detroit.
Yep. And so when people ask where I'm from, I go Midland, and they're like, "Where's that?" I'm like, 20 minutes from Saginaw. Like, oh, okay, I know where Saginaw is. Or if they don't know where Saginaw is, I'm 2.5 hours north of Detroit. And you're like, oh,
No,
okay.
it's a conversation that doesn't need to happen. So it's Detroit, from Detroit.
I'm here.
Yeah.
A complete Michigan thing to do. Just point at your
Yep,
hand.
we're
I'm right
we're
there.
good at that. We're good at that.
Yep. Yep. But the crazy, before we get into like your backstory and everything, the crazy ex-wife tour you got going on with Tom Arnold. So
Yeah,
go ahead.
go ahead. I was just gonna say that it's his crazy ex-wife, by the way. It's not my. I have a wife, and we're very happily married, and I have no ex-wives. So, but yeah, hopping on tour with Tom Arnold, starting here in about a week and a half, and I'm gonna be opening for him basically on the bulk of his dates and for until further notice. It's kind of one of those. There's a start date, but there's not really a stop date. It's just kind of, I guess, until we get sick of each other or one of us dies. So,
or one of us dies.
yeah, who knows? Yeah.
But yeah, so how did you end up getting hooked up with like Tom Arnold to do this tour?
So I'm pretty fortunate as a comedian. Actually, I've been very fortunate in my career. I've opened for a lot of big names, and I just happened to get a spot when he was in Michigan at my home club, which is One Night Stands Comedy Club in Waterford. I got asked to come in and do 5 minutes at the front of him and his then opener. And we just kind of clicked. I was giving him rides to and from his hotel and to the airport and so on and so forth. And him and his most recent opener, they kind of went their separate ways. You know, it was amicable, but he needed a new opener. And my manager had kind of remembered that we clicked a little bit, and he has a relationship with Tom's management team, and we were able to kind of piece it together. And like I said, it's one of those things, right place, right time, I think.
Right. A little bit of luck has to come into play.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. You got to be good at what you do, but that's what puts you in the position to get the luck. So that's kind of what happened there.
Right. So, but you were touring with Bobcat too, like way before this,
Yeah,
for like years.
yeah. I've done usually 2 or 3 times a year. I get when Bobcat comes into the region, he'll often have me come and open for him wherever he's at. Like I said, it's usually 2 or 3 weekends a year. But in this case, it's like actually physically hitting the road with Tom and actually kind of acting as his Suedo assistant too on the road, and making sure things are where they need to be. And so this is full blown, probably all over the map tour. And but I have I had the thing with Bobcat, and from time to time, like I think we went out to New Mexico once, and then there was a couple other weekends we were able to make happen. But for the most part, it was more like he kind of has his regional openers. Like he has certain people he likes to call on in different parts of the country. And Tom just wants more of a consistent opener wherever he goes. So that's what we're doing now. And really, really, really happy and excited. We'll see. Who knows what's going to come of this, what opportunities, but I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, they're very exciting. Like, especially like somebody like Tom Arnold, you're just like, holy shit. I'm like, this guy, if you know Tom Arnold's work or seen him in any movie, this guy is like, he's everywhere. He's crazy everywhere, like energetic.
Right.
I'm like, I'm wondering if that's how he is behind the scenes though, or is he just like cool, calm, collected behind the scenes?
He was very. The weekend we did, he was very calm. Yeah, we just kind of like we actually have a little bit in common. He has a couple kids that are around my age too, or not my age, but my kids' age, and so we kind of connected on that level. And he's a little more toned down. He's very he got sober about 9 years ago, and he's very, very proud as far as that goes. And he just likes to get out there, get on the road, get home, and I like that too, because I've kind of hit a point in my comedy career as well where like I like to there are a lot of comics out there that after the show they like to kind of hit the nightlife wherever they're at. I just want to go back to the hotel, put my head on a pillow.
Just rest
and just get home the next day. And we kind of got that in common. Tom actually, he's my favorite action movie of all time is actually True Lies.
True
which he did
Lies.
in '94 with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's a very quotable movie on his part. And so it's stuff like that that's really surreal for me because I mean these are people like I used to quote him. There's a couple lines from that movie. His whole line about even the sick bitch even took the ice cube trays out of the freezer.
Yeah.
Like I've been saying that since I was 12 years old, you know. So when stuff like this happened, like if you would have told me in '94, like back when I watched this originally, I'd be like, you're actually going to know that guy. You're going to work with that guy. Like it would blow my mind. I would think, oh, you made it. You're famous.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, it's definitely. Sometimes I have to pinch myself when I work with some of these people because it's really weird because these are people that were really huge to me as a child.
Right. And it's good to see like the people that we looked up to as like kids, and now that they're getting up there in age and stuff like that, and they're actually like throwing the younger people that were actually growing up watching these people. They're actually throwing these people a bone now. They're just like, yeah, come on out, you know, they'll get you on stage on tour, and it's amazing.
Well, you know what the weird one is to me? The one that I really have to pinch myself over is from time to time, I'll do shows with Rick Mahorn, who was the original bad boy with the Detroit Pistons stuff. That's the one because he was like a superhero to me as a kid. Like he was one of those larger than life people, you know, because you know I decided I wanted to be a comedian in my early 20s, late teens, maybe. But growing up, it was all about professional athletes, specifically NBA basketball. I loved the Pistons, and Rick Mahorn was a huge part of that. So like. So while like Bobcat and Tom Arnold, like that's really cool and stuff like that. That was all kind of stuff that became big to me later on in life. But like Rick Mahorn is the one where like sometimes like when I'm with him, like I posted something, a screenshot on Facebook the other day of a voicemail he sent me that it just showed the first couple of lines of the voicemail. And it was like, what, you're not answering your phone now, you piece of shit, or something like from Rick Mahorn. It's like just stuff like that makes me go, it's like, how did I get here? You know, that's just the weirdest thing to me that I have like a relationship with Rick Mahorn of all people where we can talk to each other like that. You know, it's just insane.
Exactly. You guys just joke around and shit like that. Yeah, I saw a picture.
Wild.
I was stalking your Facebook. I'm thinking about starting a new segment like later on in the show, but I was stalking your Facebook. And I seen a picture of you and Rick Mahorn like flipping the camera off. And I was just like, damn. I was like, so is that like the Rick Mahorn, like him doing stand up? Is that new, or was he doing that like after the Bad Boy Pistons era?
So that all started about 4 years ago. So I used to tour with Darren McCarty, former Red Wing. I used to do shows with him, and I was never a big hockey guy, but it was cool to do these shows and play these packed out bars that wanted to see him and stuff like that. But the guy that had pieced that tour together had a working relationship with Rick Mahorn's attorney, and he had found out that he was Rick Mahorn's attorney. So he reached out to him one day and he was like, listen, I do this thing for Darren McCarty. Rick's a very affable guy. I think he'd be really good at this. I think he could be a draw. If he's ever interested, you know, reach out to him. We'll connect the dots and make it happen. Mm-hmm. And he was all about it right away. Like he was just hosting the shows. Like he would come out and he would play the host, and 2 or 3 comedians would take the stage. And but he was so likable and so affable. He just gets up there and starts talking, and he really enjoyed himself. And it was I remember it was supposed to be like a one-off, and then afterwards he was like, "Hey, you guys are going to let me know when the next one is, right?" And we're like, "Oh, wow, cool." You know, so every summer we try to string together 2 or 3 shows, just because he is busy on his own. Like he still does color commentary for the Pistons, so pretty much during the basketball season he's unavailable. Right. And then in the summer he actually coaches in Ice Cube's Big 3 basketball league too. So even that's kind of hard to work around. But a lot of times, if it can be like a Monday through Thursday type of deal, if you can get it the middle of the week, he's all about it. And he loves doing it. He loves doing it, and it's a lot of fun. He's me and one other comic, a buddy of mine named Cam Rowe. We've kind of we're in this ongoing group chat where if I repeated some of the stuff that Rick says to us and vice versa, this would probably be banned by the FCC. Like his love language is roasting and busting balls and stuff like that. So when he's talking to you like that, you've really clicked with him. and I feel very happy every time I get a middle finger from Rick or like some weird gif of some guy mooning me. I don't like it's always it's been great.
Yeah, you can tell like just his personality when you see him. Like that's the kind of person he is. Like flip you off and just say hi and shit like that.
He's a huge goofball. Yeah, just a big goofball.
You can definitely tell by the way his personality is,
mm-hmm.
for sure. Especially when he's coaching in the Big Three. Like that dude's all over the place. I'm like, I fucking love Rick Mahorn.
Yeah, he's great. He's honestly like I actually with him, he doesn't believe me when I tell him this, but like he was, I want to say when he came, it wasn't until he came back to the Pistons for his like second run with them, like around 96, 97, because he had got taken in the expansion draft by the Timberwolves after they won their first championship, and then he was traded to Philadelphia. He had a couple years of Charles Barkley and stuff, and then he kind of bounced around and made his way back to the Pistons later in his career. And it wasn't really until that I really like I was like, I think this guy's my favorite player. Like it was like he was the backup center, and he would come in and he had the pull the chair move where like if Patrick Ewing or Shaq were backing into him, he would just let off and then they'd go tumbling and it'd be a travel. And like I just loved his style of play. And I actually I have a teal Rick Mahorn jersey from that era, and he signed it one year during training camp or whatever, and I held on to it for like 2 or 3 decades. And then when we started doing this tour, now it's become a ritual where every time we work together, I bring the jersey and I make him sign it somewhere else on it. So now I have this teal Rick Mahorn jersey with like 12 Rick Mahorn autographs on it and stuff like that. So he doesn't believe me, but it wasn't. But like, when they were the Bad Boys, like I remember the Bad Boys, but I was like 7, 8 years old. I wasn't like invested like I would have been as a teen or an early adult. And so it wasn't until like 96, 97, that teal era where I was like, I really like this Rick Mahorn guy, like so much that I could have bought a Grant Hill jersey, but I was like, no, I want Rick Mahorn's jersey. And
right.
So I don't think anything says, I was a fan more than buying a jersey from his backup center era. So
and
yeah, he's great.
Those teal jerseys were off the hook too. Those are nice.
They were, especially then, because like the 90s, was all about like teal and bright colors and stuff like that. So like I can understand why, some of the old heads were like, what the hell is this crap? But like, as a kid, a 14, 15-year-old kid, I was like, oh, these are sick.
Right. You just like the color layout of like those jerseys were just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And plus you had the new logo, because the Pistons logo was the same for like forever.
Yeah, probably like 50 years. Yeah.
Now it's still the same logo as it was 50 years ago. But that one,
it's funny because everything. Yeah, everything comes full circle too, because that's become one of their alternate jerseys that they wear, and it's always cool seeing them running around out there with those jerseys on.
Right, yep. Nostalgia.
That
was great. Kind of like those starter pullover jackets. We all had those.
Oh God, yeah, I had a couple of those. It was kind of funny too. I always had a team. Probably like you as well. Like I always had my favorite teams, but it was. Every kid that didn't have a team or didn't really care just bought the Charlotte Hornets one. That was always the big popular one that everybody had.
Yeah, but I remember the neighbor girl that lived down the road from me. She bought a Charlotte Hornets one.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, why'd you get a Charlotte Hornets one? And she's like, I don't know. I like the colors of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, so yeah, it was like by default. If you didn't play basketball, it was default. You went for the Charlotte Hornets coat.
Yeah, if you didn't have a team, you bought the Charlotte Hornets pullover.
Yeah. I remember my grandmother bought me one Chicago Bulls one because I was a huge Michael Jordan fan back then. I was always a Laker fan, but I was a huge Michael Jordan fan, so she bought me a Bulls one.
I remember you wearing Michael Jordan's jersey,
Christmas or something.
Yeah, like I remember you being a big Michael Jordan guy. I do from that one year that we knew each other.
Yeah, exactly. I also had a Grant Hill teal jersey too. Yep.
Yeah, those are sick.
I left it in my locker for like a week and someone stole it.
What?
But
oh, I'd be so pissed.
Yeah, but yeah, it's it it was back then, but who cared? But yeah, it was crazy. Like I lost my train of thought for a second. Oh yeah, the teal jerseys back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that was crazy. But yeah, I remember I got the Chicago Bulls one. There we go. I got the Chicago Bulls pullover, and like a week later, we were outside camping for the weekend, and it was like, I don't know, fall-ish. It was coat weather, but
Right.
you can still go camping. There was no snow out, and I had my back to the fire, and then my grandmother all of a sudden just threw me on the ground and started beating on my back. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, what's going on? She goes, you're on fire. I'm like, what? So I took off my coat. The whole back of my jacket was melted.
No.
Like $120 coat just fucking melted this shit.
And that's the type of material, too, that would just go up in flames so quick. Like,
oh, yeah. Nylon, polyester, it went up like that.
It was just such a carefree era. Like, we were just walking around basically in these, like, not flame retardant suits, but the opposite. Like, like someone just drops a match, we're done.
Uh-huh. Yep. Those polyester, anything polyester or nylon or anything, that went up quick. Mm-hmm. And that was big then in the 90s.
Yeah.
Spandex.
Everybody liked
spandex
shiny spandex, like that. Yeah, everything had to be bright, shiny. Such a goofy era.
If it wasn't skin tight, it had to be falling off your ass.
Yeah, it was one or the other. There was no happy medium.
Exactly. So let's get back into your comedy career and everything. So what do you think was the biggest comedy influence growing up? Like who was it?
My earliest memories of stand-up comedy it wasn't necessarily anyone specific at first. It was like we were one of those households that was just lucky to have HBO, I guess. And there was always, and I still search to this day and I can never find it. Like I look on YouTube, but like back in the day, there was something that came on really late at night and it was like an HBO comedy hour situation where it'd be these comics that they were never famous, but they'd be in front of like a brick wall at a comedy club. And I always remember I was like, that just looks cool. I was like, that looks so cool. Like I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what stand-up comedy was. I just knew it was these people out there talking and people were laughing. And I was like the ambiance of it just looked really cool. But then a little later on, it was, the very first comedy special I ever stumbled upon somehow was Eddie Murphy's Delirious. And I really that was the first bit of stand-up comedy that I remember like out loud belly laughing, even though I probably didn't understand a lot of the references, what he was referring, because I was young, But then as I got a little older, the thing that clicked to me that made me want to be a comedian was, and I catch a lot of flack for this in the comedy community because he's not the most popular amongst a lot of people. I became a really big Dane Cook guy. Like I was from that era that in my late teens, early 20s, that I was like, oh, this guy's really funny. And I remember it was his special Vicious Circle that I remember seeing it, and I was like, you know what, he's having such a great time on stage. I was like, I want it, whatever that is, I want to do that, because you look at so many comedians and their style, it's so self-deprecating sometimes, and they rip on it to where like it's almost like they're depressed up there making fun of themselves. And you see this guy who's up there, he's very energetic, he's very full of life, and everybody's just eating him up and enjoying him. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I was like, I don't know that I can ever get to that level selling out a Madison Square Garden, but whatever, if there's a way to make money doing that, that's what I want to do. And that's kind of what started the journey 20 years ago, little over 20 years ago.
So the Dan Cook Vicious Circle.
Yeah.
I remember that. He had it was that
Sufi, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was that on I remember that stand up. There was a joke on there where he was talking about where you're lying, and it just constantly builds from there, and then all of a sudden, like at the end of the joke, like there was a guy staring through his window trying to see if he was there, and he's like, there was a hologram of me.
He's like, that was me as a hologram.
Right. Yeah. And I was like, this guy, it was like the storytelling is just amazing in his stand-up. I love Dane Cook too.
Yeah.
I mean, he did get some flack, I think, from C.K. Lewis about a joke. I think.
Yeah, apparently, there's a little, there's some rumors there about joke theft. But the thing is about that, and he's not the first person to be accused of joke theft and stuff like that. But one thing that I think a lot of outsiders don't realize is that every premise has been done. Like, there's nothing.
Mm-hmm. So
as far as like crossbreeding goes, when it comes to comedians touching on something, a lot of times something's going to be similar, and Dane Cook's argument to it was, because originally it was over a bit about having an itchy asshole. And Dane Cook's argument to that was, Louis, I'm not the first person to ever get, you weren't the first person to ever have an itchy asshole. Like, you're like, we all get it, so it's, and there might be something to it, because I know there's a lot of times where, like, I'll be writing a bit and then something will pop into my head. I'll be like, oh, that's a great line, but it also sounds familiar in my head. And then you research it a little. It's like, oh yeah, so-and-so. So, I mean, it's very possible whether he did it subconsciously or not, who knows? But,
right.
And the thing, another argument he made to it was too, he's like, Louis, why would I steal from you when I have hours of material? He's like, it's funny too, because I know a couple of non-famous comedians that are, like me, that, because everybody kind of knows everybody in the Midwest. When you're comics, you just kind of you at the very least know who this person is. And there's a couple of comics that I know, and one of them was accused of stealing a joke of his several years ago. And the other guy's argument to it was, he was like, listen, he was like, I can write new material. It's not. It's not, it's not the end of the world. Me personally, I've never done it, not intentionally anyway. I may have, like I said, I'm sure everything I've done is very similar to what other people have done in the core of stand-up comedy. But I feel like as comics, we're a little too hard on each other with that goes, just because, like I said, there's nothing that hasn't been touched on. So.
I think that'd be like almost a fear. Like if I was a comedian and I was writing jokes, because I watch a lot of stand-up comedy and everything like that, and it's like a big fear like of mine. Like if I'm writing a joke, who's to say that somebody didn't write that joke before? Because I subconsciously could be just remembering a joke I heard on stand-up,
right?
And all of a sudden you think you've come up with it, and but yeah, like you said, like every genre, every type of joke has been it's been done. Yeah, everything's been touched on. And the thing is too, I used to kind of have that same fear where I'd be like, oh, what if someone has something similar to this? But the way I see it is like, okay, even if it has been done, this is me thinking originally on it, and this is my take. And if it's similar, then it's similar. Like I've never let that stop me from writing something, just because, it's very possible that there's going to be something similar out there. But I know in my mind, in my heart, that I'm not intentionally just stealing someone's stuff. If it's been done, we'll figure that out. We'll hash it out. If it comes to a head where it's somebody that crosses the same streams with me on the club path and stuff like that, we'll have that conversation. We'll decide who gets to keep it and go from there. But, because we're always writing, we're always evolving. So if there's 2 minutes of material in there somewhere that's very similar to someone else's, by all means, take it. Yeah. It is what it is. There will be more, the set's like I said, it's ever evolving. And unless it's, I'm a bit more of a storyteller than a joke writer. So it's a little easier from that standpoint, knowing that most of my bits are stories that have evolved from either something that happened to me, happened to a friend, and then I write a bit around it, take a few liberties to make it funnier than it is on the surface. And we're like, my 2 signature bits that I will never not say on stage is, I have a story about how I opened for Girls Gone Wild once, and then a weekend that I did opening for Ron Jeremy. And I was like, those are 2 experiences that I know that I had, and I went through them in my, so I know that what I'm telling is my truth.
So that's always kind of been a piece of advice that so many comedians have given me, and I've kind of passed it down too, is speak your truth up there and you don't worry about the rest. Granted, like I said, you take some liberties with your jokes and your bits because you have to, but for the most part, as long as you're speaking from a story that you've either cooked up in your head or you've experienced, you're going to be fine. And it'll all come out of the wash.
Right. Yeah. Stick to like personal experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've seen, and plus it's more, I want to say it's more entertaining when you're listening to a comedian tell a story than he is if doing punchline jokes. Don't get me wrong. Like Mitch Hedberg, one of my favorite comedians of all time. And he's just like, he's just like lame punchline after punchline after, like Norm Macdonald, another one, lame punchline after punchline after punchline. But it's just when you're like get sucked into a story and then you're just laughing your ass off the entire time too. It makes it that more enjoyable. Before you know it, the hour of stand up is over, right? And you're like, whoa. Yeah,
it's crazy. You can do a whole hour, but like if you're listening to a good storytelling comic, even though it's been an hour, you've probably heard 3 to 4 bits. Total. Right. They were stories that kind of intertwined and connected to each other, and it's a lot of times it's funny because there really are two styles of comedy. There's the punchline comics, the one-liner comics, and the storytellers. And the one downfall to being a storyteller is that, you take sometimes weeks and months to flesh out this story that you want to tell on stage. And then a lot of times when you put it on stage for the first time, it might get crickets. And then you're just like, I spent so much time. And because of that, like a lot of times, if something's not working, like I'll hang on to it longer than I should. Like it's probably one of my detriments as a comedian because it's like, no, like I committed to this. I got it. It is kind of fun. So one bit that I have, like I said, I did a weekend opening for Ron Jeremy. He got into comedy for a little bit, like 10 years ago, and I got to do a weekend with him. And at the end of the day, though, the weekend was very boring. Like it was very uneventful there, but I did work with quite possibly the most famous porn star that's ever lived. So I was like, I have to tell a story about this on stage. So it took a while to come to it, but I originally wrote a bit about working with Chris Kattan from Saturday Night Live because he had a weird request. Like he had asked, the agency reached out to me on my way down to this club in Ohio. They were like, hey, can you pick up a DVD player? And I was like, for what? And they were like, Chris wants one in his room to watch some movies. I was like, it's 2021. You can stream anything you want. They were like, I know, but he has his quirks and blah, blah. I was like, all right, fine, no problem. So I stopped into a Walmart, bought a $20 DVD player for Chris Kattan. And I thought on the surface that was a funny story. And it is, but I tell the story on stage and it gets nothing. Like nothing's clicking. And I was like, oh, man, that sucks because it's such a great story. So I was like, you know what? Maybe it's the DVD player. So I was like, maybe that was the funny part to me, but maybe that's not funny to other people. So then I was like, you know what? Maybe I got cocaine for Chris Kattan. Maybe I got some drugs for Chris. Maybe that, and then it turns into a story about me having to try to get cocaine and blah, blah, and I don't know where to go. So then I'm still telling that story and it's getting nothing. And I was like, maybe it's Chris Kattan. Maybe people aren't. And so I was like, okay, who else have I worked with that this could work? And then I boiled it down to, I was like, okay, I had that weekend with Ron Jeremy. That was boring. I could maybe insert him into this. Or I've worked with Dustin Diamond before too, but I was like, he's passed away. I was like, I just feel bad about doing that. But I was like, you know what? At this point, Ron Jeremy was in prison for sex crimes. And I was like, he's clearly not going to care at this point. So, so I was like, I'll insert Ron Jeremy into this story. And then it started getting laughs. And I was like, okay, maybe that was it. So now what's funny, my wife hates that bit because she was like, it's just so unbelievable. It's not funny. But it gets laughs. So, but to play off of what she was saying, I was like, let me try this too. So like at the end of the bit, I was like, okay. So maybe like 10% of that story is true. And everybody kind of laughs. And I was like, actually, the real story is, And then I started telling the Chris Kattan story, and then that became funny because they were like, oh, it's funny because this story about Chris Kattan and a DVD player somehow morphed into this story about Ron Jeremy and cocaine.
Right.
And then it became funny on the surface. So it's the writing technique, like I said, it's all based in reality, but sometimes it takes on a life of its own depending on, you know, what you need to do and what you need to add and subtract from the story. It's crazy.
Right. You're making my job really easy, Dustin.
Oh,
because,
thank you.
Because
I love talking comedy.
Like the past two questions I was going to ask you, you've already answered without me even asking you the question. So, which is making this really easy for me, but enjoyable at the same time.
Good.
But yeah, like that's crazy. Like you just take one story that's not really funny, and then now it's a punchline. Like the not funny part is the punchline to this entire incredibly made up story that you just switch it around. It's great.
Right. And like I said, that happens because, like I said, I'm so stubborn. You know, I write this long bit, and if it doesn't work a few times, I'm like, well, fuck, now what? You know, I spent all that time in this office,
right,
you know, formulating this bit, and then nothing comes of it. Like it's hard to scrap it to where, like, if I was a one-liner comic and I wrote something and I went up there and I said it 4 or 5 times and got nothing, I'd be like, all right, fuck it, it's gone, you know.
Right.
But when you commit to like a 10-minute long story that takes you a long time to formulate, you're like, ah, God, I gotta make this work. I gotta make this round peg fit into this square hole somehow.
Right,
and,
we gotta stay on some sides here. Figure it out.
Yeah, gotta do something.
But yeah, we were talking about, or I brought up Mitch Hedberg earlier, and he had a joke that was like, he's like, I'm a stand-up comedian by profession, so when I think of a funny joke, I write it down. But unless I can't find a pen, and then I gotta convince myself that what I thought of isn't funny. So have you ever like had to the point where you had a joke where you thought was gonna kill, and then all of a sudden like the Chris Kattan thing, like a joke that you had said that all of a sudden you thought it was gonna kill, but then you said on stage, you put it on stage, and all of a sudden you're just like crickets, and you're just like
yeah.
Panic mode
it happens. You don't really panic at this point, but it's because basically my routine is so, like, especially as a professional comedian, one rule that I kind of set for myself is I never want to put untested material onto a paid show. Like for instance, when I'm on the road with Tom, because the thing is, you know, people have showed up, I'm being paid to be funny. And if I'm doing something that I don't know is going to hit or not, I'm taking a risk of getting paid to not be funny. And I don't like that. So a lot of times what I'll do is, like, after I write a bit, then I'll actively hit the open mic circuit. I'll take it. That's usually what comedians do kind of through the week. You know, we'll hit these open mics and work stuff out. And it may or may not hit. And then as long as it hits consistently, and then I've made the tweaks that I needed to make like the Chris Kattan story into Ron Jeremy, then I'm like, okay, this is consistently getting laughter in front of multiple different kinds of audiences. Now it's ready to actually physically take on the road. And it happened. I would probably say out of every 10 bits that I write, and this is probably true for most comedians too, probably 6 or 7 of them they don't see the light of day after the few open mics that it hits, you know, because, and it took me a lot of years to realize this, but when you are writing these bits, they're hilarious in your head because nobody gets our sense of humor like ourselves. You know, right. Like if it's funny to us, then we automatically think, okay, this is hilarious to the world. And in our head, so we're right. So we jot it down, or with me, I never write it down word for word. Like I'll hit the bullet points because I want it to sound natural when I'm up there saying it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, like, you'll go up there thinking it's hilarious, and it's hilarious to you, but it's not hilarious to the 90 people that are in attendance at this bar or club or whatever. And then the realization kind of hits you that, okay, you know, and that's where, and I think that's why, like, there's a lot of people out there that they see comedy as easy and that haven't done comedy. And from a layperson's perspective, I get why they think that, because again, in our heads, we think we're hilarious. And then from there, really the only skill it takes to do it, aside from being funny, is being able to public speak. And then so these people think, okay, all I got to do is get up there and talk for 30 minutes and be funny and I'll get paid. That's great. This is easy. And then I think that's where the realization hits a lot of people when they start stand-up comedy. And I usually tell people, like, if younger comics ask for advice, like, one thing I always kind of tell them is, you got to push through the suck, because like the beginning part, when you first start doing stand-up, it's not going to be fun. Like, it's going to suck. And sometimes that suck can last 6 months, a year, 3 years. It's different for everybody. But if you can push through that part of it, like, you're going to be great. Like, you're going to do fine, because there's a learning curve there for everybody, that everybody has to kind of realize that, oh, everything in my head that I think is hilarious, maybe only 5% of that the general public also finds hilarious. So it's a matter of, going, it's a grind, it's a grind, because like I said, maybe 20% of what you write actually sees the light of day eventually, past an open mic anyway. The open mic sees everything. A lot of people will go to an open mic night thinking they're going to a regular comedy show, and sometimes they'll leave disappointed going, nothing was funny. But the thing is, the comedians weren't necessarily up there trying to entertain you. They were trying to figure out what works, and what doesn't work, and you might go to the same open mic 3 weeks in a row and hear the same bit, but like 2 words will be tweaked. And then sometimes people will be like, well, why did he tell that there's the same audience? Why did he tell that same jokes? Trying to work it out, and that's why I won't take generally untested material to like an actual club show or whatever, because I'm being paid to be funny, and I don't know if it's new. I don't know if it's funny or not.
Right. Now, when you're going to these shows and everything, and do you read the crowd? Do you know what you're going to say before you get up there, or are you reading the crowd before you decide what jokes you're going to tell?
I generally know going into it, because every professional comic is kind of this way too. Like, you get into comedy trying to make everybody laugh. And then over time, and there are certain comedians like that, and there's a market for it. There's a market for very like vanilla corporate clean comedians that, can generally make everybody chuckle. But that for the most part, most club comics, we have a demographic of people that think we're funny. And like, there's been times where I've walked into a club or a bar or whatever, and I've looked over the crowd, and a lot of times you can generally tell, oh, these people are going to love me, or it'd be like, oh, this isn't going to be the night. Like, everybody's over 60. I don't know what the hell's going on here. But, and sometimes it's hard, but it is your job as a comedian to kind of read them and decide, do I need to tone? Because I'm very energetic. I'm very manic up there. I move around a lot. And sometimes you have to kind of read it and be like, maybe that's not what they want. A lot of times nowadays, because of social media and reels and people like Matt Rife and stuff like that, they've kind of trained these audiences that basically just watch reels on their phone that, oh, they just want to talk to me, and that's funny. And the thing is, at the end of the day, crowd work, it's a good fallback, because everybody thinks crowd work is funny. Like, I work with this comedian from time to time who, no matter where we are, will at least once throughout their set say the line, "You guys have more dollar stores per capita than I have ever seen." And we can be in a town with no dollar stores, but they'll think it's the most hilarious thing they've ever heard, because they're like, oh, he's talking to us. He's talking about us. And people think that's really funny, to where, like, for the most part, as comedians, we just want to do our material. But a lot of times crowd work is like, if it's just not working, it's a good fallback. If you're just not getting the laughs you should get, it's always, sometimes you gotta be like, okay, they just want to be talked to. And then you pick a guy in the front row and, hey, where are you from? And then generally that'll get, because for the most part, especially if you're doing it in an area where it's smaller, everybody kind of knows each other. And then once you start talking to somebody that they know, they think it's hilarious, and it kind of, but for the most part, I go in there. My plan is generally just to go into my material. And for the most part, like, it's gotten to a point in my career where it works. But on weird nights where it doesn't, like, there's always the fallback. Like, for instance, in Michigan, particularly. So almost every comedian has a bit or joke about the Bernstein family, the Bernstein law firm family. We all have one. The thing is, I have one too. I hate the bit because it's very hacky, but the thing is, like, I keep it in my back pocket when I'm in Michigan, and if there's a lull where I didn't get as big a punch out of a laugh as I normally get, and I need to get them back for a second, I go, I gotta fucking pull out the Bernstein bit, because it always hits. Like you make fun of their eyes a little bit, and everybody's like, oh yeah, the Bernsteins, ah. So I have, like, you know, there are 2 or 3 bits that I keep in my back pocket that some nights I don't need them, but some, you know, at least once in a set, a lot of times I'll be like, all right, give them the quick one-liner that's going to bring them back into the fold. And so you go in there with a plan, but just like advice that you get, you know, if you're a fighter, like, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And it's kind of the same with a comedian.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, do you think, like, crowd work is easy? Like, is it easy? And do you think it's real comedy?
I don't necessarily think it's easy, but I will say it's easier than actual material. You know, it's what a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of times when these comics are doing crowd work, even though it seems like it's off the cuff, a lot of times, I mean, this comedian has said the same stuff to probably 50 people before that. You know, there's one line, another comic I work with, if somebody's kind of spouting off, and it'd be like, oh, what's your name? I can't see your belt buckle or something, you know, and he said that to 1,000 people before them, but they think it's off the cuff, and it comes off as off the cuff because it's been played so many times, and he says it so naturally that it comes off like that. I do think it's comedy. I do think there's a space in comedy for it. But again, I think people think crowd work is a lot harder than it is, to where in reality, it's actually a lot easier than actually writing material. Like, it's almost kind of an easy way out. I don't like doing crowd work. I will, but only in circumstances where I'm backed into a corner, where I'm like, all right, I gotta tone this guy down. Because the thing is that, like, if you're at a comedy club, if somebody's spouting off, you can easily just point at them, and the house security will come and just ask them to be quiet or leave. Right. I don't want to do that because, you know, this person paid money to be there. But so a lot of times it's crowd work that'll get you calm them down a little bit, and because more times than not, they're not doing it to be aggressive. They're doing it because they think it's making the show better. It's not, but in their head, that's what they think. So you almost have to get them, but like, everybody else in the crowd, they don't know this guy, so they don't, you know, they want him to shut up too. And I do, to answer your question, I do think it's comedy. I think there's a place for it. I don't think any comic, it should ever just be some comic's thing. You know, it shouldn't be, oh, this is the crowd work guy. Like, I feel like you should use, like I said, I use it when I'm backed into a corner, and that's about it. Right. I almost use it as a fail safe, but just like the Bernstein bit.
Right. Now, like, being like one of your friends from high school, even though it was like a short time, but all your like friends from high school, like, now, do they still see you as Dustin from high school, or are you? They're just like, wow, this guy's actually a comedian now. Are you Dustin the comedian to them now?
I don't think so. Not necessarily to them. Because what's funny about it, like, in high school, I was actually a really big introvert, especially in high school. Like, it wasn't that like I was shy or anything. I just I had the things I was into. I kept to myself, and, you know, that was that. But there a lot of people that I've stayed in contact with, especially, it's easy nowadays, like with Facebook and stuff, you know, people see you, and a lot of times, you know, you know, I have the stage name Dustin Cole. My legal name, as you know, is Dustin LaPrette. And, you know, I catch a lot of flack for that. But at the end of the day, it's just Cole rolls off the tongue a lot easier than LaPrette. And, you know, here we are there. But
easier to remember too.
Right. Yeah. But for the most part, yeah. I mean, you know, I'm still, because, you know, I'm not famous. I occasionally work with people that were famous, And I would say, the contact list in my phone, I would put against anybody's.
Right.
But at the end of the day, most people, especially around here, like I'm just another local guy around here for the most part. Like they'll know I do have a day job too. And a lot of times people will see me at the day job. And the one thing that always makes me feel really good is if they come up to me like, oh, you're Dustin Cole. I saw you at the blah, blah, you're really funny and this and that. And I always just hope it's in front of my coworkers just so they can see that I'm so much more than what I'm doing there.
It's like, I'm somebody, damn it.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of funny because, and this was years, I think it was during COVID because, and I remember this because I hadn't been doing comedy for a while and it was really bumming me out. And I remember, and I work at a store and I remember somebody came up, they were like, hey, I saw you open for Darren McCarty. I can't remember where, but they were like, you're really funny. And I was like, oh, thank you. This and that. And they walked away and my boss could kind of tell that like I was really feeling myself at that point. He was like, okay, George Carlin, why don't you head up front and get the returns now? And I was like, okay, just bringing you right back down to earth.
Like, all right, I'll come back down. Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize, they hear you're a comedian and they automatically think, especially if they hear you're opening for like Tom Arnold or Bobcat, they're like, oh, he's treated like a celebrity too. And that's just not the case. Like it's, as doing stuff like we do in the entertainment industry, while it's very fruitful and it gets us out there, like, I mean, we're not rolling in the bucks like Scrooge McDuck in his safe.
No, like I do get stopped every once in a while and like, hey, you're Dan from YouTube and all that, and I'll take a selfie and stuff like that. But
right,
yeah,
it makes you feel great. Yeah,
like it comes up, like people have come up to me and asked me like to buy their stuff at like 7-Eleven or something. Like, oh, it's Dan Levely right there. I'm like, hey, can you get this for me? And I was like, I'm broke too, motherfucker. Yeah.
Like I should be asking
on YouTube. You. I'm not on TV. I'm broke too. But yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. A lot of people don't realize that, but it's they're the price to pay for following your dreams and doing stuff like this is that you got to live a little modestly, and you probably got to have a second job. Like I said, there's no shame in it. I got a second job. It is what it is. You need health insurance, and
bills got to be paid too.
But it's one of those things too where I'm very. You look at a lot of the people you graduated high school with and so on and so forth. And some of them went on to be very successful. Like I went to school with some doctors, a lawyer, a couple other things, same thing with my family and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like I'm very happy knowing that like I never gave up the dream, and to where a lot of people do, if for the sake of a more comfortable living. And I get that, and I'll never judge people for that because, that's great. But it's like, one thing I don't want to be on my deathbed, telling I want to be able to tell my grandkids, oh, I did this, show them pictures of cool stuff that I did. And, I want to be able to, I don't want to just say, oh yeah, I managed this thing or I was a 4-minute GM. I want to be able to say that, I did what I wanted to do regardless of the cost.
Right. It's like, I don't want to say I don't want to say it, but I am. It's almost like selfish, almost. Like you don't want to be remembered as like my day job. I take care of cannabis plants. You don't want to be the remember of the guy that goes and sprays weed all damn day. You don't want to be remembered as that guy. You want to be remembered as like, I want my son to come up here. Like if I happen to pass away or anything, I want my son to go on YouTube and be like, that's my dad right there. Like,
yeah, exactly.
This is what my dad wanted to do. Yeah, this is what he wanted to do, and he went for it.
Right.
Even if I don't make it, at least I'm showing him I go for it.
Exactly. And it makes my daughter, a lot of times, she'll straight up ask me, and I'm always truthful about it, but she's like, are you famous? And I'm like, no, I'm not famous. But just, like, she knows what I do, and she's very proud of it. Like, there's, I remember one day I dropped her off at school when she was in like 3rd or 4th grade, and some kid, just the way I was dressed, I guess, with a hat and sunglasses on, or maybe I had my hair spiked or something, but he was like, are you a YouTuber? And I was like, no, buddy, I'm not a YouTuber. But it's just, stuff like that, because my daughter tells these kids, oh, he's on YouTube. But the thing is, like, she doesn't tell them, oh, he's on YouTube telling filthy jokes, but so like these, it's people think it's cool, and it's something I'll always just be, like I said, same with you. Like we didn't give up the dream. Like we're doing the thing that, we wanted to do for a long time.
Yep. Just go for it.
And it comes with a cost.
Yeah, it does. Time. Lots of time.
Right.
Time away from family, friends. All my free time is spent doing my show. As I'm sure for you, like all your free time is pretty much writing comedy, writing jokes, touring.
Right. And I got lucky with my wife because she's very, very supportive of it, because she could very easily just be like, listen, because I know a lot of people probably hear, oh, you're a comedian, and they think of it as like, oh, it's like a guy being in a garage band in his 40s. But so like I get it, but she's very supportive. But even like this Tom Arnold stuff, I wasn't sure. Like when it was kind of first offered, like I ran it by her, and I told her, I was like, if it's a nay on your end, I get it. Don't. And she was like, no, listen, if you've been doing this for 20 years, so if you don't take opportunities like this, then what have you been doing it for? And that's
right.
So, I'm very lucky with my family situation. They're very, very supportive. And because I know a lot of people in my position probably aren't as lucky.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's there's just people out there that just do open mic nights all the time and don't go nowhere, but.
Well, that's the thing. There's levels to it. There's people that do it just it's they've made friends doing it, and it's kind of like going and doing an open mic night 2 or 3 times a month is like doing karaoke with their friends. It's
right.
That's what it. And then you can take it as far as like trying to make a living with it, and it's so there's so many levels to it, and there's no shame in any of it. There's not like I know people like it's funny with stand up. There's really 2 age ranges that start. There's people that either start very young, kind of like I did, and a lot of other people, and then there's people that they hit like a midlife crisis, and instead of having an affair with their secretary or buying a Corvette, they go to an open mic and try stand up, and it becomes a passion for them. So it's like I said, there's levels. There's people I know that started in their 50s, and it's what they love doing in retirement. And,
Yep, I've always seen like celebrities, like there'll be like a reel or something, and it'll be like, this celebrity did this at the age of 53. This celebrity struggled until he was 65, and then fucking made it. But so you just never know. Like if you're going after something, like my biggest advice to everybody is just don't quit. Like, because as soon as you quit, that's when it was gonna happen. Like as soon as you quit, that's when everyone's gonna be like, oh, well, he's not doing it anymore. So all your opportunity is gone.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just keep pushing, and so I feel like, and you know what, to a lot of people that it's just too much, and I get it, it's not the ideal thing to do throughout the week, hit 3 or 4 open mics until 2 a.m. But if you want to be successful at it, it's what you got to do. But again, there's some people just do it as a hobby, and everybody in the community too, in the comedy community, everybody's very supportive of each other. There's not normally the ones that are usually excommunicated pretty quickly. And, people just stop fucking with them and that's it, but for the most part, everybody's, there could be somebody that starts comedy tomorrow and then they have a Netflix special in 6 months. And it's like, and some comics will look at that and go, well, wait a minute, I've been doing this for, wasn't it mine? It's like, no, it's just, it was their time to pop and they popped, and,
right place, right time.
Right. That's what, and everybody's, especially like when you have a scene, almost kind of like in Michigan or the Midwest or whatever, when one of us hits, like, and one of us does it, like, we kind of look at it as, oh, we did it, because we're all kind of from the same tribe, same circle. And a lot of times, that means, if they're getting bigger things, it's going to mean stuff for the people that they've been hanging around with for a lot. Like there's, I have 2 or 3 people that I take to open mic, or not open mics, but like when I get asked to headline shows, like I have my roster of people that I love to, it's usually people that are kind of local to me and that are really trying, because there's a couple people that get into it that just, they're not as into it as others. But I always, if it's somebody hungry, like, I want them to have the same opportunities I'm getting. and
Right.
because I got that as a young comic, and I try to help out with that as well.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Always try to give back too. Always give
Right.
back and everything. Yeah.
You get out of it what you put into it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, last question before we get out here, though. It's a little fun one. If your life was a sitcom, what would it be called?
Cold cocked.
Cold cocked. Okay.
I was trying to think of something like a play on my name, almost like how Seinfeld has Seinfeld and Louis had Louis. If I wanted to do something, Cole. I sell merch, bumper stickers, and wristbands that say I got cold cocked.
There you go. It's a good sitcom already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, it's that time of the show, everyone, where we get to sign off. Where we have to sign off. I didn't really get to, but we kind of have to. But if you have anything to promote or any shout-outs you want to give, Dustin, now's the time to do it, boss.
Sure. Follow me on Instagram at Dustin Cole, minus the I, because some Dustin Cole got the actual Dustin Cole before. So it's just DUSTNCOLE. Or on Facebook, just look up Dustin Cole, look for the picture of me standing like this with spiky hair and a blue check mark.
Right.
Other than that, I got something local that's it's hard to promote the Tom stuff right now because it's all out of state and stuff like that. But go to Tom Arnold's website. All our dates are going to be on there. But locally, I got a pretty cool one up August 13th at One Night Stands in Waterford. Me and Rick Mahorn and my buddy Cam Rowe are going to be there. So that's the next big Rick Mahorn one. So that's a good one. If anybody wants to come out and check it out. Other than that, I got a pretty slow summer comedy-wise. It's got a few dates with Tom, and then it's going to pick up in the fall. But summer comedy in the Midwest is just slow in general, so it is what it is. But you can probably find me at any rando open mic in and around the Flint area throughout the week, too. But also, shout out. I want to give a big shout-out to my the guy that gives me most of my work, my booking agent at the comedian company, Jason Douglas. He's the one that got the whole Tom Arnold stuff rolling too. So nice. If you ever need a comedian for any occasion, if you own a venue, you just got a house party, your parents' 50th wedding anniversary, reach out to the comedian company, get yourself a good comedian. They got one for every occasion.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, before we go, your movie, last time we talked, you were doing a movie.
I did. That's actually a good thing to promote too. Yeah. I was in a movie called The Nice Agreement. It was based in Flint. It was written, directed, and produced by another comedian friend of mine named Veronica Douglas. She's really funny. And she put me in it as I play like a quirky doctor. It's kind of funny because I'm like the token white guy in the movie. So nice. I stand out from that standpoint. But yeah, it's called The Nice Agreement from New Stone Age Productions. We're looking at pushing that into festivals here starting in the fall. So that's something to keep an eye out for too. But yeah, shout out to Veronica Douglas. I meant to. I even had it in my head today. I was like, if you get a chance to promote anything, talk about that. So I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you.
The Nice Agreement. Yeah, I was just like, I wonder whatever happened to that movie. And I was like, so I was like, gonna ask him about it. And
we had a premiere. We had a premiere last month at Timothy's Pub in Flint, and now we're looking at putting it into like independent film festivals and stuff like that to get some traction and maybe get it to Netflix. Tubi's probably more realistic, but looking at getting it out there and onto some streaming platform to catch some legs anyway.
Hell yeah! But awesome. Thank you. Congratulations on the tour again.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
And thanks for having me on again. I even told my wife that because I've done a few podcasts where it's kind of awkward. There's some awkward pauses that you don't know what to. But with you, it just kind of flows, and I think that it's a good testament to how good you are at this, man.
Awesome. I appreciate that. I do.
Yeah, you bet.
I always tell people I don't script my shows. Everything flows. Everything's organic, and that's how we roll. And that's
the way it should be. It's the way it should be, man.
Exactly. But again, congratulations on tour. Thank you again for coming on and taking time out of your day to chat with me for a little bit. And everyone, I'm going to be taking a couple weeks off. I gotta get some guests scheduled. Yes. I always take a couple weeks off. I book for like 6 months, and then I take a couple weeks off and book the other 6 months. So that's what we're on to right now. I'll be back in a couple of weeks. I can't tell you who my guest is because I don't know, but I'm sure he's going to be fired as always. But as always, guys, I do want to thank you for clicking that play button. Remember, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, and we'll see you soon.
Catch you on the next one, man. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Bye. Bye, everyone.